but not feeling too great. So hopefully it's nothing. Anyway, so this is the lesson that we gave to Blue classes yesterday. A quick review of converting fractions to decimals and to percents, which we did on Tuesday. And then going over how to go the opposite direction and convert a decimal to a fraction. So there you have a notes page here. There's a PDF posted in Classroom if you're at home, or if you are in the classroom, there's a yellow handout that you should have in front of you to fill in here as we go through this process. All right, so to convert a fraction to a decimal, you divide the numerator by the denominator. That's what we did on Tuesday. So 3 divided by 5 gives you 0.6. Now, this is one that you should know. 3/5 you should know is 0.6, so you don't need a calculator. But if you don't have them memorized, that one memorized, 3 divided by 5 will give you this answer, 0.6 or 0.6. Okay, and to reach back to Unit 2 and converting decimals to percents, remember that to convert a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal 2 places to the right, add zeros if you need to. And so 0.6 as a decimal is 60%. Mixed number 2 and 5/16. When you convert this to a decimal, the 2, the whole number part, is going to go in front of the decimal point. Okay, and then you convert the fraction part to a decimal. 5 divided by 16 in your calculator. All right, just to go through this, 5 divided by 16 in your calculator, 0.3125. So the decimal form of 2 and 5/16 is 2.3125. Again, to convert this to percent, move the decimal point 2 places to the right. And realize that because this is more than one whole, that means that your percent is going to be more than 100%. So it's 231.25%. Do not round these off unless you are given directions to do that. Of course, as soon as I say that in the next problem, I'm going to have you round it off. Okay, 1 divided by 6. So sometimes, as we talked about on Tuesday, when you divide 1 divided by 6, you end up with a repeating decimal. So many fractions turn out as repeating decimals. So when you do 1 divided by 6 in your calculator, you get this, 0.16666666667. Remember from our discussion on Tuesday that this last digit here is actually the calculator rounding off at the end of the display. It looks to what the next digit off the display would be. It's 5 or higher, so it rounds the last digit of the display up to 7. That does not affect that it's a repeating decimal. It's still a 6 is going on forever. So 1/6 is 0.16 repeating. The bar, the repeating bar, goes over just the 6, not over the 1. Now to convert this to a percent, you could take this version up here because it's got plenty of decimal places, right? And just go like that. And you could do it as 16.6 repeating percent, right? So it could be written like this, 16, oops, got to use the math thing to put in the repeating bar. Okay, 16.6 repeating percent. You could write it like that. Okay, but the repeating bar does not go over the percent sign. Backspace. I'm going to show you the wrong way. Okay, so 16.6 repeating percent, but typically for these problems in the real world, you don't write a number with a repeating bar in it. You just round this off. You could round it off to 17%. You could round it off to 16.7%. Okay, normally you'll get instructions for what to round it to. Okay, so this is about 16.7%. All right, so that's what we did on Tuesday. Fraction to decimal, and then a reminder of Unit 2 stuff, decimal to percent. All right, so now let's go the opposite direction. Percent, if we start with a percent and go to a decimal, you move the decimal place from right to left, just like it is on the setup here, right? So when you're going from percent to decimal, move the decimal point 2 places to the left. And that's dividing by 100 to get rid of this percent sign. And so 36.5% is 0.365. All right, so now the new part. So to convert a decimal to a fraction, we have to think about what this decimal means. For each decimal place here is a multiple of 10. So this is the tenths place, the hundredths place, the thousandths place. So this is actually read as 365 thousandths. 365 thousandths is a fraction. 365 thousandths looks just like that. So that's your fraction form of this decimal. You use the place value to write the fraction. Now, why is there a box here? Because this can be simplified. So 365 and 1,000, they are divisible by 5. So 5 goes into 365. You could use your calculator for that. And the answer is 73. And then 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. So it simplifies to 73 200ths. That is the fraction equivalent of 0.365, the fraction equivalent of 36.5%. All three of these numbers are equal. They're the same exact number, just written in a different way. All right, 278%. So right away we say, oh, this is more than 100%. It's going to be more than one whole. So that means the decimal version of this is going to have a number in front of the decimal point. And moving the decimal 2 places to the left gives me 2.78 as the decimal form of this. And when there's a whole number part to the decimal as a fraction, this is then going to be a mixed number. So the 2 is going to go in front as the whole number part, the mixed number, the whole number part of the mixed number. And then 0.78 as a fraction, tenths place, hundredths place, is 78 over 100, 78 hundredths. So again, that's the original fraction using 100 or 10 or whatever the place value is. And then simplify this. So 78 and 100 are both divisible by 2 because they're both even numbers. And 78 divided by 2 is 39. And 100 divided by 2 is 50. So 2.78 as a decimal is 2 and 39 fiftieths as a fraction. All right, so that is converting back and forth between fraction, decimal, and percent in either direction. All right, so look at a couple things here to help you out in the book. Page 266 in the book, writing a decimal as a fraction. And again, just like we just went over, says every decimal, every terminating decimal can be written with a denominator of 10 or 1,000 or 100, right? Or more if it's longer decimal places than that. We will not see anything longer than that, okay? And their example here is, here's a table of fish in an aquarium with decimal amounts of how much fish is in there, and they want it converted to a fraction. What fraction of the aquarium is goldfish? So goldfish is 0.15 as a decimal. That's 15 hundredths. 0.15 is 15 hundredths, okay, because the 5's in the hundredths place. And this simplifies, dividing both top and bottom by 5 to 3/20. So 3/20 of the fish are goldfish. All right, we're going to use this table again for got it problems in a second. So I'm going to just have that ready to go. Okay. One more convenient notes page here. If you are not good at your decimal place values, remember the first place after the decimal point is tenths. The next one is hundredths, then thousandths, and you could keep going if you want to. We will not see anything more out further than thousandths. But a very common mistake that people think hundredths and they think 3 decimal places, but the hundredths place is the second one because there is no oneths place after the decimal point. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And then here again is your how to convert decimal 0.42 to a fraction, 42 hundredths, and simplify. Okay. All right. So I got a couple got it problems here. Here is the table from page 266 of fish decimals. And it's saying, okay, what are the fraction equivalents of these decimals for the molly? 0.2 is 2/10. That can be simplified to 1/5. The guppy is 0.25. This is one you should know. You should know without having to use a calculator or writing a fraction out that 0.25 as a fraction is 1/4. Okay, you're supposed to know that is, I mean, you should really know a quarter, a half, and 3/4. The angelfish, 0.4, 0.4, one decimal place here, so that means it is 4/10. 4 and 10 are both even numbers, meaning they are both divisible by 2. So divide by 2 and you get 2/5. Lastly, during a hockey game, an ice resurfacer travels 0.75 miles. Ice resurfacers are more commonly known as Zambonis. Okay, so the Zamboni travels 0.75 miles. What is the fraction for 0.75 miles? Again, this is one that you should know. 0.75 is 3/4. But if you didn't know it, it's 75 hundredths because it's the second decimal place. And 75 hundredths divide both the top and the bottom here by 25. And you get 3/4, 3/4. All right. So that is converting decimal to fraction. So we got a couple IXL topics to work on these. The first one, HZD, is convert decimals to fractions. Right, 0.25 is a fraction. The answer is 1/4. And then once you finish that one, then you can go to mix everything up. So that's the next one, which is 2HW. And this one's going to go both directions. So the first one here is how do you write 2/4 as a percentage? Now you should recognize that 2/4, 2 out of 4, is the same as 1/2. And 1/2 as a percent is one you're supposed to know, 50%. If you didn't know it, divide in your calculator 2 divided by 4, right? If you had to, 2 divided by 4, and then 2 divided by 4, and that equals 0.5, and then 0.5 as a decimal. To convert that to percent, move the decimal point 2 places to the right. Okay, so you can use your notes page to do these problems, and you can use a calculator for any of them as well.